episode of the deMysticism podcast, sacred conversations around radical self-love. And I am on camera today, which is different and maybe an opportunity for some growth and expansion. So therefore, I am going to embrace it. And I never script these episodes, but I did sit down and think about what would I like to talk about this week. It is Monday, September 1st, as I embark on this recording. I record these usually on Mondays at around this time, and last week a storm was blowing in, and the wind just kicked up, and the storm is blowing in again, because there is apparently lots of medicine for me around themes of the wind. But really what I wanted to get into today, as I share more of my growth journey with all of you, but doing this from a place of love, because I want to share things I've learned along the way as I start to tap into how I have cultivated a life that really aligns with my soul and how I continue to cultivate that life. The growth is nonstop. But I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday around how is it that I have achieved some of the things that I've achieved, and what have I created in my life. The conversation specifically started around the idea that I had literally asked the universe to release me from my corporate job. I wanted out, and I think it's safe for me to just publicly speak about this now, I guess, because it happened going on 6 months ago, that I had started to feel that this was something that was out of alignment with my soul purpose, and never really been great at working in a corporate environment, but it's one of those things that I subscribe to because it's what we do, right? It's how we have been programmed to believe, at least many of us, that our financial abundance will arrive to us as if we work in a corporate job and we put in the hours and whatever. This is not what I'm here to discuss, but I had literally said the words, I just want them to eliminate my position and give me a package. I was kind of over it, but I didn't have myself set up with what I like to call an FU fund. I was not in a place to quit this job. And I did not actually hate it. I'm very good at finding ways to enjoy what I'm doing. I was working on some projects that really did light me up. However, I could see just how the collective is shifting and attitudes around old systems crumbling. And I worked in financial services, and there was a lot of that clingy, gripping, fear-based ideology going on. And it was becoming increasingly uncomfortable for me. And anyway, I had put that out into the universe. There was absolutely no reason why I should have lost my job or my position should have been eliminated. I was doing really great work. I was working on an award-winning podcast. Things were actually going quite well. However, 2 weeks after I spoke that out into the universe, I literally got laid off. And I cried for about 10 minutes. And then I thought, this is exactly what I was asking for. And I haven't looked back since. I have not sought another corporate job. I have leaned fully into what I believe I am here to do, and how I am here to serve humanity. And I am learning to trust that will provide for me. So, what is it? How do we create the lives that we really desire? And I'm going to share some things that have worked for me. I don't think there's one formula that works for everybody. I think we can all learn from one another. I think that we can take pieces of what worked for someone and say, okay, I'm going to lean in and try that. And if it feels good and works for you, then it works for you. And you take a piece of advice that you get from someone else and you lean into that and you create your own little magic formula. So I think the biggest piece of any puzzle here, as far as pulling in money, abundance, love, health, whatever things you are hoping will come to you, you needs some practices you can't, yes, belief matters. We do have to sit around and think into what is this going to feel like? What do I actually want to have? How do I want to experience life? And then there has to be some doing. So one of the things that I really lean into are ritualistic practices, or really making everything in life into a ritual. But what I mean by ritual is really more about putting intention behind everything that you do. So an example that I will share of something that I've been doing recently, as I want to put my desires out into the universe and help them grow. I in this Dreamweavers group that I've mentioned, we have a practice of doing fear burns, where we write down the things that we want to let go of, the things that are kind of keeping us stuck, holding us back, and then we burn those, and then we follow that with what we call a sowing, and we write down all the things we are calling in. And what I like to do to take it a little step further is I write those seeds that I am planting, those thoughts, ideas, intentions, whatever you want to call them. I put them on water dissolving paper, and I tear up that paper and I throw it into one of my sound bowls with some water, and I play the sound bowl, or I give it a whole sound bath, and I pour all of this intention for expansion and growth, and really giving my whole heart to that, which is how I approach sound anyway. That the whole practice of sound requires your intention behind it, whether you're delivering it for yourself or others. That's another topic. But in these seed sowing practices, I like to most often put them in the heart chakra bowl. Sometimes I put them in the sacral or the solar plexus chakra. It just depends on where I feel into that being the best place. Sometimes I'll split it up into a variety of bowls. Play the bowls, incorporate that intention, and this paper starts to dissolve in the water. And then I pour that water into my plants, and I let the plants take that energy and help fuel their growth, and then they are cleaning the air in my space, and they are helping to let these dreams breathe and come to life. Yeah, it's woo-woo. If you're here, you probably believe in some of that. So I think that there is a lot of power behind that. But the biggest piece of that puzzle, it's not I'm telling you have to go get paper and dissolve it in water, and you have to have a sound bowl, and you have to pour it in a plant. None of that is really what matters. What matters is the intention that I put into that practice. That is what is really fueling this belief, this gift that I'm calling in. That is what is helping to bring it to life, is the intention that I put into it. So beyond that, I was thinking of other examples in my life over the past few years. I can think of many, many times where I have desired a change or desired something to come into my life to help me show up better in the world. And I was trying to lean into, okay, so what are the things that I have been doing that actually have worked? Because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that's because maybe the thing you were asking for wasn't exactly what was going to serve you and the greatest good of all best. And you were probably delivered something else. And are you able to recognize that was the thing that actually is better serving you? So some of that is just some awareness and tuning in. But a few key things that I would invite anyone to lean into when really looking to create the life that they are dreaming of. It takes work. It really isn't just sit around, meditate, and dream about it. That's one piece of the puzzle. But what I have found matters a lot. And I'm thinking of people that create beautiful lives, that have wealth and abundance and use that for good. We could have a whole nother conversation around money and how it actually amplifies what your nature is, and your beliefs around money, and what kind of people are able to have a lot of money are going to influence your ability to attract money. But one of the big pieces of the puzzle, I'm burying the leads here, spirituality. So your spiritual practice, I do not care what that looks like for you. It doesn't matter. Believe in whatever you want to believe in, but there has to be a belief in something bigger than you. And I say that with some conviction because, yes, I'm sure you've seen successful people that don't necessarily have a spiritual practice or are atheists, and that's great. That's beautiful. Whatever makes you happy. However, if you're following me and wanting to lean into what I see, what I believe works, what has worked for me, deepening into a spiritual practice, and specifically for me, when I hear the word God, it kind of universe, spirit, they kind of all become one and the same to me because I think it's an energy that I identify with. And this one is not better than the other. If you are in an organized religion and that serves you, great, run with it. But for me, I started leaning into really working with some different goddess energies. So researching 3 of my favorites that really just speak to me. In fact, I am working on a new tattoo that will incorporate these 3 lovely goddess energies into my system, because I do believe tattoos carry energy too. And I would like to carry these 3 so deeply with me that I am in the process of permanently having them on my body. And this would be Goddess Isis, Kali, and Mary Magdalene. And sometimes people think that is an odd combination because of what they represent, and Mary Magdalene being a little more in the Christian sense, and Kali being a goddess that is often quite feared because she is depicted with all these skulls and her tongue is sticking out. She seems fierce and mean, but honestly, my sense of that is this just beautiful divine mother, divine feminine protection, and this is going to clear the bullshit from your life. So in the example I shared before of my job being eliminated, I had started to work very heavily with Kali energy and asked for, I actually have a Ganesha over here too, which is another god that will usher in the destruction just for the greater good. It's all from love. So when you fear this idea of destruction, I mean, yes, it's scary to lose your job. I'm not going to negate that. However, it is what had to happen so that I could step into this space. I had to almost be drop kicked off the cliff. This is how it tends to work for me, which I'm working on not letting it get to that point in the future. So Kali being a goddess that is sometimes feared because she seems to be the goddess of destruction, but leaning into, if I asked for it to be cleared and it was cleared, then it's a gift. And I have to lean into seeing the gifts in that. And this is not spiritual bypassing. We have all this language now out there that we're all trying to just navigate how we not offend each other. I find that leaning into positivity and seeing the greater good in any situation is beneficial to me, not because I'm bypassing, but because what other way is there, honestly? I mean, if you can't see the good in a situation, it's not helpful. It's not helpful to dwell in the victim mentality or, oh my God, why did this happen to me? Which leads me into appreciation. So same thing, appreciating what shows up for you. As I reflect on how this year has gone so far, after I lost my job, or actually started right before I lost my job, I had some stuff going on that I've shared on this podcast where my skin was getting really inflamed and irritated. I see it now as symbolically shedding. Like, this is something that many of the folks that are in this space with me, people with a much bigger following and a lot of experience, I listen to their energy updates and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's exactly what I'm experiencing. That the world is in such upheaval right now. There is so much going on that we are feeling this in our physical bodies. So in that way, certainly there were moments where that was really, really hard and I was really uncomfortable and it was taking me to some not great places in my mindset. However, I'm very resilient and I will always pull myself back out of that. I still have some little stuff that flares up, but for the most part, that has been resolved. And I have a great appreciation for the fact that I was being made aware of where I needed to shed layers to really step into a whole new version of myself. Almost literally, like I was in this chrysalis and like, ugh, my God. And then kind of shedding that and stepping in to let the wings come in. Ooh, and I didn't talk much about Goddess Isis, but as I tap into her energy, she is, a beautiful, fierce protector, Egyptian goddess. She's the one with the big old wings. And I have still a little bit of this, this rash thing, this little itchiness that's right on the back where I would grow wings. And I find it fun to assume that's what's happening, to kind of feel into that. And it's metaphorical. Obviously, I don't think I'm literally going to sprout wings. But I can sometimes almost feel that as I bring in these goddess energies. So embodying that energy, which is a practice. So I can very easily say, tap into whatever it is that seems to light your heart up, to feel like, I want to connect with that. And then almost like you're drawing it into your body and feel yourself like rise up and pull that energy out into your experience. Share that energy as you move out into the world. I'll go deeper into each of these perhaps in the future. I'm probably going to develop some courses. I am letting myself be guided by the universe in this whole process. But I think the other, with that appreciation is also a willingness to accept redirection. So this was also something that was coming up in a conversation I was having recently with someone who was asking me, how do you know when you are tuning into the right frequency? This is a term that we use, and this person was expressing a moment where for some time they felt really in alignment and they were creative and these things were coming to them and, like they were getting ideas and songs and things coming through. And then all of a sudden that thing was stolen from them. And my invitation there was to maybe consider that a redirection, right? Willingness to redirect, because we may have an idea of what we want, but there is a huge element of surrendering, letting go of the attachment to exactly how, when, what that will truly look like when it shows up. So that sounds like I'm saying, opposite things. Like we get a great idea of this is what I want to create, and I'm going to lean into this feeling, and I'm going to take the steps, and I'm going to make that happen. It's the force. You can't force these things to happen. It's feeling into, this is how I would like to show up in the world. This is how I would like to share my gifts. This is the presence I would like to bring. And what is returned back to you is not really up to you. You can wish for it, and that's fine. But you have to accept and be willing to see those beautiful gifts when they come back to you. But the more that you stay in this place of peace and ease and fully embodying the energy of all the goodness that you want to put out in the world. I'm assuming that anybody who is connected with me, who is listening to this, has good intentions with what you are looking to create and put out. I'm not speaking to anybody that's looking to do malicious things, and I don't think they're finding me anyway, so we're not even going to worry about that. But in that surrender piece, there's a real big factor in relaxation. So there's a lot of talk out there right now about how do we nourish our nervous system? How do we keep ourselves in that regulated state? And again, there are a million different ways to get there. There is no one magic pill. There are practices that you can work on for yourself, skills that you can hone until you discover this is the way that it's easy for me to drop in. And that it literally is a practice. It's getting into these moments where you are dysregulated, where you're angry, where you're upset, where you're feeling a little bit of despair and discouragement, and then finding your own path back to ease and calm. I am a yoga teacher. I am a sound healer. I meditate daily. I work with my breath. These are the practices that have really, really helped me. So getting up in the morning and sitting in quiet reflection and actively choosing what kind of attitude I want to bring to the day. I have conversations with my spirit guides. I've started having conversations with the energy of money. And I'm going to call it money. I'm not going to dance around like, it's money. This world that we're currently living in does function on money. It's not a dirty word. It's not a bad thing to want. It's just another relationship for you to cultivate. So I literally will have these conversations with my key goddess energies, Goddess Isis, Mary Magdalene, and Kali. And Kali I don't always bring in because I know I have to be prepared for Kali to fully love on me in whatever way that she sees best. And that might mean removing something that at this moment feels dear to me. So if I don't feel strong and solid and truly non-attached to what outcomes might be, I don't really play with Kali, but we are cultivating a really nice relationship there, where I am trusting that she will only cut away what is good for me. And sometimes it's just cutting away your limiting beliefs. It's really just, why do you think you can't have X, Y, or Z? Let's get rid of that because it's some bullshit. You really can. Whatever you are wanting to have, if it's coming from a pure heart, then it's there. It's yours. You can have it. You can create it. And this takes me into personal responsibility. So this has been a soapbox of mine for quite some time, but we each are the creators of our own reality. Another spiritual teacher that I love to lean into is Neville Goddard. He's from, I don't know, like the 40s or something, but you can lean into his teachings and they are based on scripture from the Bible. Maybe some might find them blasphemous because of the way that he approaches it, but I find them to be very powerful ways to tap into. A lot of it is based on the law of assumption. So whatever you assume to be true for you, fully, deeply assume to be your truth, has no choice but to come through for you. So again, these are things that you have to look deeply at what you have been programmed to believe, where your nervous system feels comfortable with that experience. So particularly as in regard to money, if you've only ever made $40,000 a year, it would be really hard for you to just say, in 1 month, I want to start making $200,000 a year. It's not impossible. Lots of people have done things like that, but there is a nervous system set point that you're used to receiving. And when you go, I'm going to jump it up 4 times that amount. Your nervous system might be like, can't do it, don't know how to receive that. Your brain might say, bullshit. That's impossible. You can't do that, right? So you've got to unravel those pieces and really look in and see what kind of garbage is getting in the way. And then where is your personal responsibility? Where have you created that? And that takes away any victim mentality that you might be carrying. And I understand when we're talking about traumas, when we're talking about things that have been ingrained in us from that perspective, calling it personal responsibility is pretty harsh. That's a bit of a different conversation. But where your personal responsibility lies is in how you react to that, how you choose to perceive the experiences that your soul has had so far in this lifetime. And no matter what, they're all teaching us something. They're all opportunities for us to grow and expand. And when we go through hard things, we are given tools that help us go out and help others. And that's really what we're all here for. We're just here. My favorite Ram Dass quote, we're all just walking each other home. So, all right, I'm making this long-winded as usual, just rambling. But lastly, surrender and learning to trust the process, trust your God, your universe, your spirit, trust yourself, trust your higher self. That's a big one. Where self-trust versus self-abandonment. And boundaries are a good part of that. But when you know you are saying yes to something that's actually a no, you are self-abandoning. When you are leaning into victimhood, you're kind of self-abandoning, because you have the ability to shift the narrative. You have the ability to see any experience differently. And yes, any experience. So yeah, don't come at me with things that you know, I'm just always going to look at where are you being a victim of that, because it gives all the power you might have away to just be in victim mode. So where can you reclaim your ability to take charge of your own life? All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. Lean into your spirituality big time right now. We're in eclipse season. This comes out Tuesday the 2nd. I think the full moon is this weekend, 6th or 7th. I'm not an astrologer, but I know that these are powerful times for us to learn, to grow, and to create the expansion that we are looking for. So I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Hopefully this works and I get to post a video. This will be the first one. I don't know what I'm working with, whatever equipment I have, and trying to make this work, and it will get better over time. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you all next week.